Welcome to Let's Talk Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Alex, your host. And today we're talking about the cervical spine, the neck. And these x-rays dictate some differences between a healthy neck and the progression to unhealthy neck. What makes a healthy neck healthy? What makes it unhealthy? Why does the shape affect it so much? How does it feel? Stay tuned and find out. Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Alex, your host, and today we're talking about the cervical spine, the neck. So I want to focus first on this. This is healthy curvature. I want you to notice the face is over here, back of the head over here. Here we can see the back of the shoulders. This is the spine. First vertebrae, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. There are 7 vertebrae in the cervical spine. This next curvature is ideal. We call this a lordosis. When you're born as a baby, as an infant, it actually goes forward, and that's fine as an infant. The neck is so movable, so malleable, that just crawling and looking up while you're crawling reshapes it to have this ideal lordosis, this curve. Notice it's kind of like a springy looking. So if something was to hit the head, or if the head was to come up and down, it would spring. This would go forward and these would come closer together. The impact would be distributed through here evenly and even pressed down into the larger parts of the spine. Because the higher we go in the spine, typically, the smaller the vertebrae, the less they're able to take force from some sort of compression. And just living your life, you're constantly compressing your neck. So somebody who has a bad shape to their neck will lose their neck height. Their muscles around the neck will have to get stronger. Which brings us to our second, which is actually a photograph that I printed of one of the patients that we're treating. Me and Dr. John are both treating this person. She was in a car accident. She didn't notice any problems, but the shape of her neck is bad now. It's going a little bit forward. This curvature, you can imagine with force on the front, it puts tension here, where you can see it would collide in like that. And then here, it has to bow forward if there's any pressure from gravity on the neck. Now let's put this up here. Stick a little bit better, maybe. So she's in a car accident. She didn't realize this damage was done, but she doesn't notice any pain yet. Dr. John saw her first, and he said, being a wise chiropractor, he said, let's take an x-ray to be sure there's no trouble. I take the x-ray, and I have to report the bad news. There is trouble. Her neck has come forward. This is worse than a military spine. You've heard military spine. That's when the spine is straight. This is even reversed back to kyphosis, a forward on the spine. Remember, we had the good lordosis comes backward, away from the face. But this, the curvature comes towards the face. It's a kyphosis. Any sort of just gravity on this head is going to cause trouble. What she didn't know, which we could tell by just looking at this spine, she developed, because of this area having more pressure on it, she developed terrible headaches after 2 weeks. And after a month, she started having spasms in her neck. And this is while being treated with chiropractic care. Really, the first month's progression, we just want to slow it down. When we see trouble like this, me and Dr. John, we say, whoa, let's do everything we can. Massages, ice, sleep, water, gentle adjustments, so that we can make sure this isn't going to get as bad as it can, which we'll show later in the show. It can get very bad and cause terrible symptoms. Now she's at a point that she's doing a little bit better, but there's still some recurrent stuff from this. We have to reshape her neck. It's going to take a lot of work, but she's here for the journey. Now that she's seen the image and she's starting to understand the consequences, she's kind of tuned in a little bit, and hopefully we won't have too much trouble getting her to follow a treatment plan to the point that she has a much healthier looking neck. This neck is the first stage of a process of degeneration, and I can even see here, that's a bone spur on both sides of here, and if you look at the space, if you look at the space of these discs, all right, so vertebrae, the dark space is the disc. We can't see the disc because it's soft. X-ray only sees hard things. So there's a hard thing. That black space between must be where the disc lives. Hard space. These are the bones. These are the vertebrae. The disc lives between. Look at how big that space is. This one's a little too big because you can tell that's where it came forward from the whiplash. That's too loose. So the disc isn't supposed to be pulled that much up. But then look what happened to the one below it. Right after the shape change, there's a ton extra force there. You can't see the damage up here, but there's damage up there too. And because of this extra damage, she's only been under care for about 2.5 months. Because of this extra damage, she's already forming bone spurs. Now imagine she's looking down at her cell phone all day long with her head like this. It's only going to make things worse. There's certain things that she's just going to have to be very nice to this neck about and not do. Falling asleep in a chair with your head like that, forget about it. You're going to be hanging right off of that area where you've got all this trouble. These bone spurs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is between C5 and C6. What nerve exits there? The one that goes down to your thumb. The one that controls muscles like this one, right here, this brachioradialis. It's a big deal. You don't want to have this get to the point that they need to do something extreme. And by extreme, the order would be, first we try chiropractic. We could do some physical therapy. We could do some home exercise. We could do occupational stuff. We could do some ergonomics. Those are conservative. But then, that's not working out. Uh-oh. Let's look at doing some injections, some shots. Uh-oh. That's not working. That's a surgical consult. So we definitely don't want to get to that point because with a neck like this and not being, she's probably mid-30s. She's got plenty of years left on her. We need to make sure this gets to a point where it's not only not getting worse, but it's in a space where even if she maybe doesn't behave perfectly the rest of her life, it doesn't get worse later. That's a big deal. So to recap, healthy neck, goes backwards, supports the head like a spring. If there's compression here, these all take on that pressure by bulging out a little bit and compressing. Face on this side, back of head on this side. The shoulder over here. The rest of the spine goes down here, by the way. So, healthy neck does not have terrible headaches all the time without another undue reason like a medication issue, or if you need glasses and you haven't gotten them, or if you're not sleeping properly. This spine doesn't have nerve impingement because there's plenty of room for all the nerves without some sort of ridiculous process like a space-occupying tumor or something crazy. This spine, though, does not have all that space. It cannot support the head easily. The muscles become fatigued, headaches galore, bone spurs poking at nerves that go down the arm. Well, stay tuned. We're going to come right back and we're going to be talking about what happens next if we do well and if we don't. Welcome back to Let's Talk Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Alex, your host, and we're talking about your neck after an accident or some sort of injury that could have made it start to get the wrong curvature. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mean to say that only accidents cause you to start losing your normal curvature. Look at this. This is almost normal. It's not that bad. You can see there's a little bit of pinching right here. but this one's obviously, it's coming forward a little bit from this point. This is the sixth, this is the fifth vertebrae, and then from that point forward, it comes a little forward and then comes back up. So remember the x-ray we were showing before, her neck's starting to come forward. Let's just say that she was never in an accident and I found this. Is that possible? Well, it's not possible with this one little spot that's really, really wide. But very, very close could happen. You could have just bad posture for a long time. This bad posture of looking at your phone, or some people just hang their head. It's kind of like a sad or a introverted or a closed off position. You look down, right? You're looking down, you're holding everything inside, you're looking at your phone, something like that. Sleeping in the chair many times, not just once. It wouldn't happen after just one bad incident. It takes a lifetime of mistakes for posture to cause this. Okay, but this time it was an accident. Look at how this area of extra pressure develops into this area of severe degeneration. That's painful. That there looks like bone on bone, which you never want to see. Most of the time you hear a doctor say bone on bone, it's not true. But even when it gets very, very close, it's terribly painful because you want space there. This isn't just an area where bones live. There's all sorts of tissues. You've got vascular tissues. You've got nervous tissues. You've got disc. You've got ligaments, muscles, just capsules around the joints. There's a ton of tissue in there. And it needs to have space or you will have pain. And I also want you to notice on these more lifelike representations, this little area of sclerosis, we call it, where you have this discoloring of the bone, that's caused by degeneration, damage, or inflammation. What happens with degeneration is the body will start to make decisions about this bone. It's not living well. The joint needs to move or it will suffocate. And now that it's suffocating and damaging the bone around it, your body has to make a choice. And the tough decision that a healthy body will make is to shut the joint down so that it's no longer a problem. This has caused extensive damage to the joint because it's not breathing. The joints aren't breathing properly. So what I mean by breathing is if the joint doesn't move, that squishy part in the joint doesn't get squished and the nutrients don't come out. That is literally oxygen. That is all the good stuff your blood delivered being released into the joints so the different tissues can live. The hyaline cartilage, it can live. The fibrous cartilage, it can live. Without that, it will die. And your body puts these bone spurs out to connect the bones together, destroy the joint, and just say, forget it, it's never going to move, and it's just causing us trouble. And this is what it looks like on x-ray. This is catastrophe. This person will no longer be able to use those joints because they do not exist. The bone continuously formed completely over the joint. From this point, you can see it's pretty tight. There's a lot of these bone spurs that connect from front to end, and now there's just no hope. There's no return from this. This is the same as if a doctor went in there and fused it with metal plates, which they do, by the way. Sometimes a doctor, I'm not saying it's wrong or right because it does solve problems, will go in here and say, look, it's already on the way to this. So why not? Let's take some bolts and screws and metal pieces and just lock it all down. Get it to that part already. Skip all this painful stuff in the middle. It's a dangerous but possible and common solution. The other solution is, rather than saying, let's give up on this joint, like your body is slowly starting to, let's try to breathe some life into it as soon as we can and get it back to healthy. Do we see it go backwards from this point? No, but I have seen this point get to no pain. Do we see it go backwards from this point? No, but to be honest with you, this doesn't hurt. It's just severely dysfunctional. It's severely dysfunctional. You can't really turn your head. You can't really look up and down. Because another cool thing about the healthy spine is when you have that ideal curvature, you can look up easily and down easily. When you have this less than ideal curvature, you're looking down all the time. You're looking up just to look straight. Look at this. This neck is so far forward that in order to look up from a neck that's this far forward, and it's starting to curve like that, I need to look up just to look straight. So if my neck is that far forward, I'm looking up right now, but I'm looking straight. And that, you can imagine, is a lot of stress on the muscles that are pulling your head up. Another thing is, the weight of your skull is about 14 pounds. 14 pounds held like this is quite easy. You could do that. That's a bowling ball, a large bowling ball. Your neck is doing that all day long. Now try to hold it out like this. Much more difficult. If you're holding a bowling ball away from its foundation, you're going to be using a lot of muscles. And it gets worse the further you go out. You'd have to be flexing very hard on your arm, not to mention your neck, just to hold that. So imagine doing that all day. You want that right up over your shoulders. The main takeaway from this is, if you find yourself in this path, you need to turn it around. You need to do what I'm going to talk in the next segment about, what exercises and adjustments and options we have to deal with this. But really, if you find yourself anywhere in this path, try to stop it in its tracks, and if you can, reverse what you can. If you have bone spurs, okay, you have bone spurs. But that doesn't mean the shape has to stay like this. That doesn't mean you have to let it progress to worse bone spurs. You can get to a point where you have much less or no pain even with bone spurs. I've seen large bone spurs that were causing terrible pain. Patient was in pain every night and every day. They came, they took our advice, they got adjusted, and now they still have large bone spurs, but no pain. They do have to come every month, but it's a small price to pay to keep, well, what we call the original parts. All right, I'm going to talk more about how to prevent getting to bad spot, what we do after you're in here, and what that looks like for a treatment for a patient that's anywhere along this path. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Alex, your host, and we're finishing up our talk on the x-rays of the cervical spine. Down here, though, I want you to pay attention. Look what happens. You have degeneration right here. This degeneration is a narrowing of the disc. See, two bones there. The joint is supposed to be between, like here. That's a nice disc. That's a bad disc. That's a bad disc too, but that's a really bad disc. Your body doesn't know how to deal with this. It's not moving properly. It's not breathing. It's suffocating. It closes down the joint. We eventually get to completely fused, lost the joint. Can't move that anymore. It's gone. Nothing you can do for it. Lots of destruction, lots of damage. As a chiropractor, what I want to do is get on that spot and remind it it can move. I impulse. I send that bone through the area it can't move. Boom, move it. You'll probably hear a noise. Once it's moving again, you'll have some life. It's breathing normal. You move your head, it moves. The squishiness of the hyaline cartilage, that's a part of the joint that when it's squished, it's like a sponge full of water. The water comes out, but it's full of nutrients, and it feeds the entire joint. This joint, now nourished, it's like it's breathing again, can heal. It can recover, and it will prevent it from getting these bone spurs and worse degeneration. That's what I do for it as a chiropractor. But you have a job too. If you ever have a curvature like this, you have to actively work to reshape your neck. If there's nothing you get from this show, this is the one thing. If you have a forward-leaning neck, a degenerative stage, phase 1 or near normal, or even the worst stuff, you should do this as many as 3 to 5 times a day, 3 to 5 times when you do it, holding for 6 seconds every time you do it. It's going to look like you get a turkey neck, okay? So don't be embarrassed if someone catches you looking through your window in your car and you're doing this. You just pull your head backwards and up, and you keep your chin tucked. And what it looks like is this. And I hold it, and what this is doing is stretching these muscles out, which causes my brain, it triggers a reflex that pulls the muscles attached to the front of the spine, it pulls forward. And this pulling forward will reshape your neck. It will pull the middle of your neck forward and pull these bits back so that you can get back to a more normal spine shape. I will adjust your neck and prevent those joints for the moment from getting stuck and degenerating. But you must reshape your neck. This little exercise, you pull it, give yourself a turkey neck, is a lifesaver for this type of issue. Now what you can also do is when you're relaxing, not even a stretch, so easy. Lean backwards, like so. You can put a towel behind your neck, or you can put it on the edge of your couch or your chair and just lean back like so. And try to put this in the middle and just stretch it back and then relax. Let your body heal. Let it kind of fall back there a little bit. Let it start to reshape it just by gravity. Gravity is working against you when you're standing, but when you lean back and you relax like that, gravity is working for you. Imagine I've seen a neck as bad as this. I'm adjusting these very narrow spaces. I can't crack them anymore because those bone spurs will hurt if I crack them. I use gentle drop pieces. Little click, not much noise, little drops. I'm doing as much as I can to get motion back into these areas that are degenerating and are stuck and are falling apart. And this patient works hard to regain the curvature of their neck from a car accident or from bad posture. What I also want to put down as a last thought is I want you to remember, if you do have this terrible car accident, you could come here first, but you don't need to get a referral or anything. When it's a car accident where a car hits you, no fault on you, your insurance isn't going to go up if you pull out a medical claim and come see us. I don't want you to be scared because I hate to see when somebody doesn't take care of it and they never see us and it progresses really bad by the time they do. So just remember that. We care about you here. I don't want anyone to be suffering unnecessarily. Thank you for tuning into this show. Have a wonderful time, and we'll see you next episode.